All right, welcome. This is Alvin from Trying Success on the Old Fashioned Health Network. This is a interview that I have been waiting for. I've been watching this man on Instagram and YouTube and a lot of his speaking engagements and things like that. And I'm so happy to have him on my show today. He grew up in 5 countries, 4 continents. He's a motivational speaker. He's a blogger. He's written a book. So he has online courses that you could take. So I won't keep going through all those different things because I'm sure you're used to hearing it all the time. But we have today on our show, Tayo Rockson. How you doing, man? Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Alvin. It's a pleasure, and thank you for saying those kind things. I really appreciate it.
Right? Yeah, man. You've done a lot. When I see that you've lived in 5 countries and 4 continents, I'm like, you've lived a lot of places.
Yeah, my dad was a diplomat, so I have to give him credit for that. He was the one that had the job that took us there, but it was a very interesting learning experience. It certainly shaped my worldview, but also got me into, what I do today because, you start to see opportunities maybe where you didn't see them before.
Yeah.
So,
I want to start. One thing that I definitely want people I want to share with people that I thought was so funny. He has a couple of pet peeves, but he also has something that he does that I'm just trying to say, who does that? He likes hot sauce on gummy bears. Who does that?
Yeah,
what is
the African Superman? That's who does that. The African Superman.
It's like hot sauce on gummy bears. You like hot stuff. You like spicy stuff. Is that what it is?
Yeah, no, I do. Have you ever seen the show Hot Ones?
No, I haven't.
It's a show on YouTube. It's a show on YouTube. They bring all these guests on and they answer questions as they, go through several.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I always, they have a website. So I have a whole bunch of those hot sauces there because I'm prepping myself for one day when I'm going to be on that show. So
you're really going to do that, huh?
Oh, yeah. I always compete. I've always competed in hot sauce competitions. And in Nigeria, there's a lot of, there's a lot of spicy food, but there are also a lot of spices in general. So I got used to it.
When I hear hot sauce and gummy bears, I think about a spoonful of diabetes and a spoonful of ulcer type stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I've scaled back on all my sweet because, it's a real thing, but I'm not recommending it for anyone. I don't even do it as much anymore. But if you want to explore.
No, this is on the Old Fashioned Health Network. We don't promote that kind of carrying on over here.
I'm not even going to tell you it's healthy because I'm a big fan of healthy living, but occasionally that is a vice of mine. Gummies.
and then you're a big sports fan. You really like sports a lot. You like basketball a lot.
Yeah. Basketball, what I used to call football, still
you call
football and tennis. I think you all call it soccer, but yeah, basketball, soccer, tennis. I also like American football too, but my favorite is basketball, and then very close behind that is soccer and tennis.
Okay.
So
all right. Okay, let's get into it, man. I'm so happy to have you on the show once again. So let's talk about first your book that you wrote. And then we're going to get into more. I have a series of questions that I wrote down. I was like, I got to ask him about this. And when I started looking at it, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to have enough time because we could be on here for hours. So, but anyway, let's first talk about your book and what this book is about.
So the book is called Use Your Difference to Make a Difference. It's about connecting effectively across cultures. And I wrote it because, one, you highlighted my background. I grew up in different parts of the world, but the first decade of my life was spent in and out of 3 military regimes, and 2 of them were dictatorships. And so for me, I've always been fascinated with how you can bring multi-ethnic, multi-religious groups together, because Nigeria is multi-ethnic and multi-religious groups, over 400 languages, 250 ethnic groups. And so when I was growing up around the world, I had initially an identity crisis. I remember being this skinny, I was 10 years old, a skinny Nigerian kid with a thick Nigerian accent in a French-speaking country, in American international school, going through puberty, right? And I've been Black on 4 continents. And the way people would react to me, it always varied. And sometimes it wasn't always good. Right. And I was really reflecting, in my life experience and my lived experiences. And it occurred to me that a lot of what we do today, the problems we have, is because a lot of them are because we don't have a good relationship with things that are different. Things that we perceive as different. So if someone's a different gender or a different relationship or a different religion or different language, a lot of us in history have found a way to either eliminate that or find a way to diminish it in some shape or form. And, I felt like I've lived through many of these experiences where I could see how I could come up with a framework for that. And I was looking at the world, and it continues to happen now, whether it's vaccines or not, whether it's COVID, there's always something that someone has there. And so I wanted to write a book where I could give people tools to open the dialogue, but also be self-aware to know how they participate in the vision in the world. So that's how the book came about.
Yeah, I've tried to order my book. I made an attempt a few times to order the book because I wanted to have read it by the time I interviewed you. So I figured I wasn't going to have time to do that. So I started just looking at a lot of your YouTube clips, a lot of your motivational speaking. That's like, so he's going to cover this book and some of this. But I'm still going to go back and get the book. But I think
please.
I'm going to go back and get the book. So you do a lot of teaching and motivational speaking and stuff, right? Yeah.
So I run a consulting firm which focuses on diversity, equity, inclusion, and equity and belonging. But I also I'm a professor, so I teach at 2 universities currently. And
where do you teach at?
One in Jersey called Felician University, and then one in the UK called, Imperial College.
Okay. And how's that? How do you enjoy doing that? I mean, do you enjoy doing it, or is it?
I do. This was all intentional for me. For me, I identified 3 areas where I feel like I could make an impact. I said, people spend most of their lives in some workplace, or they go to some education institution, and media plays a big role in how they see the world. Right. And so I started with workplace. So it's my consulting practices, because no matter whether you could be a fast growing startup, you could be a multinational. I felt like if I could have some sort of impact, I'll be living my purpose. And then with the education institution, I just, I realized if you have a master's, you could be an adjunct professor. And so I just intentionally looked at schools. The school in Jersey, I'd spoken there. They brought me there for my book. I was on a book tour, and I just noticed that a lot of the students look like me. And so I wanted them to see someone that looked like me. And so I remember chasing down the dean and she was looking at me like, you don't even need this job. I was like, it's not about the, I'm not doing it for that, but I want people to be able to at least recognize that there is, an avatar for them out there. And with media, I've been podcasting since 2014. So for me, it's strategic and intentional. And, so I'm trying to make sure that I'm in those spaces that at least impact human behavior.
Okay. Now, speaking of people treating you different when they see you, you mentioned that you had gone to, I was watching one of your videos that you did in September. You already know probably where I'm going. You had attended a wedding, right? And this wedding that you attended, you mentioned how people was feeling uncomfortable. You was uncomfortable with the greetings that they gave you.
Yep.
So how did that, tell me first of all, how did you come about even going to the wedding, and the people that invited you, they didn't prepare you for, okay, this is what you're going to do? No.
One of my friends just got married, and he invited me to town in Texas, and then we went, we went there, and my first greeting was the pastor asked me where I was from. I think he was expecting me to say a state in America, and I said I was from Nigeria, and then he clutched his wallet, and then he asked me if I was going to steal his money, and then he just like he chuckled after when he saw that I was looking at him, and then he said, "Oh, I'm just joking, In Nigeria, have all these princes and stuff." And then the night went on. We were having rehearsal dinners, and then I gave my speech, and then this older white lady came up to me. She congratulated me for being so well spoken, and told me that it was good that I didn't have do-rags and earrings and braids or grills on my teeth. And then the music, I didn't even know what, then this is the second incident. I just thought, oh gosh, I'm in a place where I don't think anyone knows me. I have to really manage my anger right now because, I have to be able to find a good escape plan.
Right.
In case that, and I also didn't want to put myself in a position where, I was outnumbered. And then the music started to come on. I believe Drake was playing, and then, people started saying the N word so casually, you stop pointing at you, and I'm like.
So how was your guest with all this? The person
they had no idea.
Wow.
They had no idea. This is what I was talking about. And this is, when I got into anti-racism and all these things, so many people, in fact, those people didn't even think they were doing anything wrong. None of them. The pastor, the old lady, the people screaming. I was like, oh, it's in the song. It's a song. And I find that this happens across the world where people say all these interesting things and, like, oh, you're being too sensitive and all these things. But I remember feeling I was so angry on all sides. I was angry because why would they put me in this position? I was angry that they weren't aware of it. And I was angry at myself for not even because I wanted to lash out. Right. But then you could hear my parents say, you got to be able to get back home safely. Get back home safely. Yeah. Get back home. And you're not even in the same country. My parents were, in Nigeria or Vietnam at the time. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, this can't be like, well, what am I going to do here? Right. And so I just took like those deep breaths that my parents usually, tell me, like, because I haven't started off at a dictatorship before I started realizing, what it was like to be black in different parts of the world. You get a version of the talk earlier, right? The first talk I got was, you can't say this stuff outside because that person is in power, and then you're from this tribe, and if that person from that tribe hears you, you can get in trouble and you could go to jail. And so I was just processing all those moments. But I'm not unique in that experience. I'm sure, many people listening to, have had those type of experiences growing up, and you've had to make that internal decision about whether you want to risk it all in this moment or suck it in for now.
Right. You pick and then at that point, what can you win?
Yeah.
So what the cultural differences that you teach, try to teach people, what do you tell people that are in business so there's a difference between dealing with race or cultural differences or racism when you're in a small business atmosphere versus when you're in a corporate America atmosphere. Do you think they're the same? And if they are, do you approach them the same way?
Well, people make up these institutions. So it's the same. What I always tell institutions and businesses and schools is, if you don't check in your biases or how you see the world, if you're not even honest about that, you're going to bring that into the office. And that doesn't matter if you're in a small business. If any of those people, for example, that I just explained, went to the workplace, it's not going to be strange for them to turn down another black man with dreads applying for a job because they will consider that man unprofessional. That doesn't matter if you're in a small business or a big corporate corporation. And so I always start with that idea of you have to be honest with yourself, and you have to deal with how you came up with that conclusion. Right. You don't. People like to do I'm a good person versus I'm a bad person. And I'm always telling people that, you can be a good person in a bad system, and you can be a bad person in a good system. Right. It doesn't even matter unless you actually intentionally choose to work, because the system's already set up against, a lot of black folks. If you go to any salon or any store, if people are doing hair versus ethnic hair, you're already not seeing hair as the same, right? If you're doing food versus, even with other cultures, like Asian, this food, and I'm like, yeah, this is like the same. Why do we have to learn this food? Or if we do movies, people say, oh, this is a black movie, it's a Hispanic movie, it's a Latinx movie, or it's we've conditioned ourselves to just see one as a standard. Mm-hmm. And I'm always telling people, well, tell me what your standard is and what your norm is. And your standard could be beauty standards, right? Mm-hmm. Some people will say, oh, I just like light skin, or, that's, then I'm like, well, why do you like it? Like, I just always thought it was beauty. But then where did it come from? Someone came for that. It could be, I don't know, society standards, professional standards. Right. And so for me, I start there.
Okay.
I have everyone really be honest with their baseline. And every one of us does this in some shape or form. It doesn't even have to be race, but we've done something. No one is perfect. That's why I always say use your difference to make a difference. But we need to change our relationship to that, because if we're if we're only reacting because, oh my gosh, something happened, we should do something probably so I don't get sued, it's not going to be sustainable. Because when your son or daughter or kid comes up to you and says, why is this wrong? And you can't explain to them why it's wrong, you can only say, oh, well, this person died, we should probably do it. That's not going to make that kid understand and then grow into the person that could, lead, right? So that's where I start. And that doesn't matter with the size of the company.
So do you believe that, so you've lived on 4 different countries and 5 continents. Out of all the travel you've done, do you think racism is the same levels in all the places you've been, or is different in different places?
I think the degrees are different. I think a lot of people participated in white supremacy in general. Even in Nigeria is the largest black country in the world. Right. But it also has one of the largest bleaching populations in the world. That's not necessarily racism. That's the idea of
wait a minute. When you said bleaching, you meaning African people bleaching their skin?
Yeah, bleaching skin as a beauty standard. You need to be light skinned to be, and it's not even, if you look at India, you look at a lot of South Asian countries, a lot of African countries, where did that idea come from? Right? That's a different level of that. Someone has translated the idea of beauty means you need to be closer to this.
So what country would you blame for that? Because I have in my mind who I think would be.
Oh, it's colonialism, colonization. We were colonized by Great Britain. Other countries were colonized by, whether it's Spain or, some people had Dutch colonies, some people, Italy, whatever, all those colonies. In the late 1800s, Europeans came over to Africa to carve up the continent and decide which one was a territory. The way that they ruled was divide and conquer, make each of these tribes that would never have been country hate each other and give them a reason. And then dangle this, oh, if you do this, we'll give you this leadership position. That stuff still stayed when they left, where, you still have people saying that. I remember I was going on a date with someone who's a little lighter than me. And she said I was the limit because her kids will be ugly. And this was something her grandmother told her. And she was just a little lighter than me. But she was like, yeah, you're like that last shade of black that I could date.
That's
again. Yeah. And so I couldn't even believe, she just said it so like, I thought wait, what? But she was so she just believed it.
Right.
So in different countries, you have stuff like that. Then you have a lot of the overt stuff. I mean, I've dealt with any number of things from, whether it's law institution or getting questioned for living in the building you live in. That happens often while working out. People hiding the kids in the elevator from me.
Wait. So this happens to you now?
Oh yeah. I mean, you sound surprised.
Well, I'm thinking that right now you currently live where?
I live in New York, but the most recent one of someone hiding from me in the elevator was last year.
Hiding from you in the elevator? Yeah,
it was in the morning, elevator. I was going down to the gym. This was like November, I think. And but I've been you just know, it was a woman. It's just like she was stuck to the corner of the elevator. And then at this point, you're already trained. You don't want to escalate anything. So I just, put my ear there. But that's that. I mean, but
so how are you able to functionally teach cultural differences and racism and experience it to the degree you have? I mean, so so let's just say you at what used to be we just call Bell South, because Bell South is not Bell South anymore, as we know. So let's just assume you had a big Fortune 500 company, right? And they brought you in to speak. Yeah. You just got on the elevator yesterday to go to the gym, and you've had an incident, but you get to corporate America to do your speech. How do you speak to a group of people that don't look like you, that you've seen fear you in your everyday life? How do you speak to them? What do you say to them to try to convince them, I'm not going to eat you up? You're not hot sauce with gummies. What do you tell them?
I never think it's my job to convince them. So if they brought me, they're like, we want you to talk about this. I found a way to highlight the problem. I'm not, and I have a style. I'll always be honest. That day when it happened, I had to teach. I had a speaking thing, and I brought it up. I said it was an example. I found a way to put in an example because they were trying to figure out how not to be racist with housing. Okay. I was working on that. Okay. And I said, I'll just share a personal example right now. And, I could see sometimes you get looks in the audience. You're like, ooh, why did he say that? And then sometimes you get people in the audience feeling, you can see they feel a little guilt. And then sometimes you hear people nodding. My job is not to sugarcoat the truth, is to highlight the truth and then say, but I'm not here to call any of you out, but some of you know you've participated in what just happened. Here's what I want you to ask yourself when you're doing this, because you're looking at me as someone who is different from maybe a person you might have acted that way to. And you gave me some privilege because, I don't know, I have a degree or I'm a speaker or spoken here. If you break it down further, what if that person also, you don't even know that person? What if you just acted that way for that person? Right. What is the source of that? Because if you don't figure out, I always say, if you don't understand your triggers, you can't change your behavior. That's so the key to change behavior is saying triggers. So you have to be able to tell me what happened. Maybe your parents told you, right? When I was I know a lot of people in the South don't like to consider Virginia the South, but when I was in Virginia, people, it was like, it's just very, very they will tell you, this is a sin, we do this, you're blah, blah. They have all these religious reasons for it too. They have the societal reasons. Something happened to the grandparents. And, if you're not an athlete or into football there, at least for me, they won't see you any different. And so when I used to have those conversations in Virginia, they'll go back to that. But there's never a real reason. And so I was just telling you need to work on that. And so my job is to provide that feedback. But it's very draining. I'm not going to, it's a very draining process. I've been in therapy. I always encourage a lot of Black people to do it too, because it's not always, it's frowned upon in a lot of our cultures. But I had to go to therapy so that I could manage my emotions.
I commend you for that, because I'm probably not sure if I would have chose therapy first over the action first, and then therapy probably later on for probably acting out.
I've done action. I've made mistakes, but I don't want the audience to think. I learned from an early age. I remember I was so angry as one of those. I was a teenager and I did something in this American national. I just slammed some. I don't know. I was just so angry because I played sports, and then I saw the fear for the first time, and I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh,
they're afraid of me."
Yeah, I can't just be wilding out here because I'm very energetic and I couldn't control it. And I didn't even know what I was doing. And then you learn quickly, your parents they sit you down and they give you look, you're a little taller than these. You can't just start doing this here. But I am switching that narrative a little bit because I do feel like I want us to be angry. I don't think anger is necessarily a bad emotion. I think we can figure out what to do with that. But I had to unlearn that though, because first they're suppress your anger. Then I was like, no, I'm not going to suppress my anger. I'm just going to have to figure out how to use my anger that works for me, because I deserve to be angry.
Right. Because you caused it. Right.
Yeah. I can't just yell now.
Right. So you mentioned you went to, so it's a two-part question. We know about racism from other cultures. Yeah. Well, other people that don't look like us, right? What about the racism? Do you believe that we can be racist as Black people, not to other cultures, but to each other? And the reason why I asked that question, because now I'm going to loop back around, not necessarily putting you on the spot. So you went to Lynchburg, right? The school you went to, right? Why not an HBCU first?
So when I graduated from college, it was high school. I was in Nigeria. I graduated from high school in Nigeria, the boarding school. Mm-hmm. My dad just got posted to Vietnam. Okay. And we were coming here. So, any Nigerian parent listening would understand this. It was very clear that I wouldn't stay in Vietnam long. For better opportunity, I would say go to America or England. At least that's what we're taught. And so they were a little nervous about sending me off. This would be I was in boarding school, so they were used to that, but I was in the same country. But I was going to go to another continent without any of them. And so my dad went around and asked, hey, where can I send my kid so that I wouldn't have to worry about him? And then, they found this school, Liberty University. They had curfew. They didn't have co-ed dorms.
Right.
You know, you couldn't wear like there was dress code and all these things. And for him, that felt safe enough. So we didn't, the HBCUs or any of that wasn't even in the thought. They were just looking for us a place for me not to lose myself. Because one of the biggest fears of diplomatic kids is that when you're interacting with all these culture, you forget where you come from, because you lose that. They were like, don't forget where you come from. My parents always used to say that. So that was why. I mean, it didn't even like.
So
Yeah.
I got this right. So from the culture in Nigeria, and it seems like it's not just because your father may be a diplomat, but is it the culture in Nigeria to, if your kid decides to go to pursue his education, you're looking for safety, and safety being one, and the second would be to make sure you don't lose the
values.
The values.
Yeah.
Do they
Yeah.
think the values won't be the same if they attended the HBCU because it gets a bad rap? Or?
No, they didn't even know of it. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't in their. None of the HBCU conversation didn't happen because I didn't know of it. They didn't know of it. I wasn't. I didn't grow up. I didn't spend time in America to even know. But I started discovering it when I was here. But in their head, their number one thing was that. And I'll add to safety. They always want the kids to go to like the Harvards or because for them that's less questions asked.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. If you show up to a job interview and you say I'm an Ivy League grad, they almost have to pay attention to you. That's how they were processed. Because remember, they grew up with more dictatorships than I did. Okay. For them, any opportunity is you take it now and distinguish yourself quickly so that you're safe. They weren't thinking any of that. But if I grew up, I spent my formative years in America, we would have had that discussion. But especially with the type of person I am, I've been studying activism since I was 10. So, but yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting, and I'm hoping the listeners are really getting this, because it helps me to understand and makes me try to figure out a way, or if there's to share the HBCU experience outside of the United States more, so people can understand.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where the misunderstanding of thinking, well,
there is a misunderstanding.
Don't like black people because they feel like we won't interact. But you're saying we don't know nothing about HBCU and not in those countries. Well,
I mean, I hope maybe now it's changed. I'm not going to pretend and say. I'm just saying, for me, back in 2007, 6, 7, I hadn't, honestly, it had not crossed my mind. I hadn't done that. But I don't want to speak for the whole country. I'm sure some people know, because in HBCUs there are a lot of Nigerian.
Yeah.
People of Nigerian descent. Some of them might have been born here. Some of them might, so there's that. But to the other question you had, between us, one of my biggest hopes for us is the infighting stops.
Yes.
I don't think that's racism. I just think it's tribalism, or like we discussed earlier, how colonialism happened. Mm-hmm. When we, fight amongst ourselves or disparage ourselves based on, so sometimes I see our black queens get harassed for not being light skinned or being too dark skinned, whatever. It depends on whatever that is. It becomes an interesting discussion. Or even if you say something in a song or a lyric that becomes popular, but people start internalizing, but they don't know what it means. And then it becomes like a cultural thing. And now the people being affected are us. Right. It's one of those things. And so my hope with that is that as we build the bridge between Africans and diaspora and African Americans here, we realize that there's more that we still have to learn about each other, and there's more we can celebrate. That's always my goal with that. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's good. I'm glad you answered the question, because I was starting to feel like, okay, so now I went to the HBCU. I always rep my HBCU.
Of course.
I went to Jackson State. So, but
Jackson State, okay.
And if you like sports, you have to know about Jackson State, because
I do know about Jackson State. I mean, there's a big conversation about HBCUs in football now. I mean, Deion Sanders is doing his thing right there, but people are still having. I have this question for you, since you talk about this, because even amongst I've listened to enough conversations now. Mm-hmm. a lot of people are torn between, whether, African American talent should pick a big school or go to HBCUs. And the biggest argument against it is the equipment and all this stuff and opportunity.
Okay.
And so what do you think about that? Because on one end, they're saying, hey, we want our kids to actually get the best. Well, are you trying to take that away from us? And then the other end, they're like, we need someone to pick us.
Okay. So
but it's not them up there.
So it's kind of a trickling effect. And there's a couple of sports people here at the studio now that's probably listening to this. So if I choose to go to Ole Miss, so everybody's familiar with Ole Miss, right? I choose to go to Ole Miss, and I have 12 other siblings behind me. And we all took our parents' money and sent it over to Ole Miss, or our talents and skills and sent it over to Ole Miss, and left Jackson State, Alcorn, and the rest of them behind. We're not giving back to grow our own community because we keep giving our talents and stuff. And our reasoning is that we don't have the proper equipment. But if I take my talents and I become a number one star in the NFL, now I've created some conversation to now start getting money fed back into my university. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can start doing things because because that's what's happening at Alabama and all those kind of places.
Yes.
They're just so well recognized because they've taken their talents and people investing in their notoriety. And some of those talents are coming from people that look like me and feeding it to Auburn and Alabama and all those places. So they get the best advertising, they get the best promotions. Some of the bigger companies promote them and advertise them, and HBCU don't get anything because we can't get those talents and skills fed back into our university. So it has to start changing somewhere so we can start being recognized and getting the same financial benefits that other schools are getting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Trickle down effect, like you said.
Trickle down effect. And that's the reason why racism it hurts so bad on so many different levels.
Yeah.
It's not just you don't like me because my hair is long or I got dreads or whatever.
The system, right?
The system. It really hurts me, even down to being in business. Small businessman try to go to get a loan from a bank. You can have a 780 credit score, but you have so many different things that you have to hurdle. You have to go over. So that would be to me that I think racism it just hurts us on so many different levels, not just educational wise, financially, and then just living everyday life. So that's why I applaud the way you do it, what you do. I probably would need counseling too, because if I went and had to speak against looking at all these people, because even working in corporate America, I used to work in corporate America, and man, Tayo, the hardest thing
I used to too
is sit in some of those meetings and watch a person that came in. I just watched this new guy start. I've been here already.
Yeah.
And how did he get a corporate job, get a promotion before me? And you made me train him, by the way. So you know what I'm saying? So then to have to do, and then so now they come up with diversity cultural classes or courses that you have to take, cultural diversity.
Yeah.
And what we didn't see before was people like you teaching those courses. So that's been a little change.
Yeah, we still have a long way to go though, because I saw this shift happen a little bit after the murder of George Floyd, and before people would, it would say, hey, you should come speak, and I would be like, I'm not going to solve anything in one day, right? Like it's not that you're like, oh no, don't worry, it's just black. We're working on it, and we don't have any budget. And then I think there was a lot of pushback after George Floyd, and I'm hoping it stays this way, because I really want people to do it because they feel like they need to, not because they have to. But then they're like, you need to make it more systemic. You need to put it in this, because to your point, many people look at racism as only a personal thing, but they don't understand the like you said, the systemic way. It leads to so much access and opportunity. It can affect a whole area. Schools are based on zip codes, for example. So if you live in this zip code, you're not gaining all these textbooks and all these things. And then here's that. If you can't secure a loan, all that. And then there are many groups that get afforded the opportunity to fail continuously. Even let's look at the NFL.
Oh yeah.
The NFL is mostly black. We don't have the same ratio of black players as we have black coaches. But a lot of the coaches that are white get to fail upward
Right.
If someone, this is why my parents had that mindset, by the way, when I was saying they were trying to send me there. And I always, something I've learned to fight and unlearn is it's okay to fail, right? Or like, it's okay to be angry.
Right.
But we can't do it amongst ourselves where we now say, because that black person failed, we need to like drag this person. And, because everybody else gets to do it, right? Everybody else gets to come back up. And that's the way anything builds. And so if they have that scarcity mindset, we have that scarcity mindset amongst ourselves, what we're feeding the system as it is,
What would you suggest people do to live above racism, or something you think we could do to, and I can't say cure racism. I don't know if that's the right thing to look at.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's just say live above racism, because I have in my mind a way that I think we could do it, and I want to hear what your way is. And then I want to ask you about a podcast you did. You said it was your 100 YouTube episode, and it said it was called Keeping It 100. So
that was a while ago.
Yeah, I saw your very first YouTube versus your YouTube now. The thing that I'm just honored is the fact that because you've done so much and you have so much to offer with your books and your courses, and you've traveled the world and you've been on so many different platforms, to take the time out to be on my show, and you didn't look and say, okay, you ain't got but 300 followers. You didn't do that. You just like, yeah, let me share my knowledge. And that doesn't happen in our arena often, even with people that look like us, especially. They want to say, okay, well, what am I going to get out of this? Now, first, they don't know all the things I'm doing, but you've researched me already.
Yeah. You just answered the question, by the way. That was my answer. That's what we need to do. Mm-hmm. We need to do that to ourselves. To be able to live above this and live beyond this and that, we need to identify the same opportunities that other groups have. Mm-hmm. And so if someone says, hey, I've just started a business, I'd love, to get your thoughts on it. If you can, by the way, because sometimes people can stretch it and then they can overdo it. I want to leave space for that. Right. But if there is an opportunity for you to do that, take on that role to mentor, or the opportunity to share your stuff. If there's a small business in your area, and you have a platform, just say, hey, I really enjoyed, this Jamaican meal. It's really interesting because it got me thinking about the culture. Now I want to go to, Kingston and all. It was just something like that. If you have a platform, we need to recognize the influence that comes with us, because, Black culture is universal at this point, right? It's hip hop and all these things. Mm-hmm. And if we start having this little mindset where, I'm going to start to ingratiate a lot of the different things. This like, I have a lot of Black art in my room for my house, for example. So, so like, this is an art piece that represents part of my Yoruba culture, and be like, oh my God. So that's what we need to start thinking of ourselves as. We are change makers. We are thought leaders, and we need to have an ownership mindset. Okay. Where we understand that our word is bond, right? It really matters. Someone is looking at us, right? So that's how I've always tried to approach it. I have a long way to go, but for me, I had to unlearn the same thing, because I used to wait before. I had 85 job rejections when I graduated, because they said, I'm not a citizen, you're a Nigerian, whatever, all these things. And then it wasn't until I got into a car accident in 2012 that I almost lost my life, that I really realized, I have to start just living now and doing whatever I can for my own community. And then, eventually it goes and it grows and it grows, if it does. But even if I impact someone that has a bigger platform, I had to feel more comfortable with that. So that's what I always see it like that.
I like your promo that you have where it says, imagine a person graduated from college at the top of his class and then going down and then trying to come back up. I like that program that you do. And I guess you're talking about the car accident at the time.
But the reason I even put that out is I did everything I was supposed to do. Right. My parents put me here to go get a degree in America and do well. I did it. I didn't get the job. I didn't get everything. And then I eventually got one job and I hated it. It wasn't even me. I was doing something that I thought my parents wanted to do, but then I was losing myself in the essence. And I was like afraid to dream until the accident. But, I wanted to do more of these things that I'm doing, but I had to fail. This is what I keep saying. We have to give ourselves permission. I got fired twice. I was broke. I had to fail so that I wouldn't be protected from growing. but there's no one that grows without failure or pain. But
Right.
we have to change that relationship with us where we're not shaming or demonizing, and anyone like, oh, we give that person one shot and that's the end of it.
Right.
You ruined it for all of us.
Right.
I'm like, how can you? Which white person you say ruins it for all white people? Whenever we never say that.
No,
we never say this person has ruined it. Well, this movie didn't do well in the box office, so we're never gonna invest another movie with a predominantly white cast. I've never heard that, but it happens, for any other.
There's been a race of people that have had a bad leader here in the United States, and they still support him.
There you go.
Now, so I don't know how much worse it could get. I mean, you've been accused of like hundreds of things, and our former president, Barack Obama, didn't have not one issue the whole time he was in office. And the sad thing about that, I had more people that looked like me that was complaining about him. He didn't do anything.
Wow. Yeah.
And then the president that followed him, that you see doing things, but you still say, oh, but he's still a good this. But you couldn't give that same appreciation for someone that looks like you that actually did the work. I did the work, and you still don't want to give me credit, So here's my thing for racism. I think this is how I think we can elevate above it. The United States itself and other countries and other places seem to control people by what they perceive is success or what's happiness or what makes you who you are. And it's usually a material based type thing or a look. If you can learn to live above, this is me, your money does not make me, my skin color doesn't make me who you think I am, and you don't have to have all of the brands that people think you need, like all the different brands that make you who you are. If you can live above all those, you won't have no problem. That's how to me, in my mind, you escape racism, because I don't have to have all your stuff that you think is going to make me who I am. You don't want me to ride, I don't have to ride your bus. I have another option. So it doesn't matter you don't want me on your bus. You don't want me at your restaurant, I got a problem with that. If we just start saying no to what you think I have to make me, then that's how you get, in my mind, above racism.
I loved it. I love it. Yeah. We have more power than we give ourselves credit for.
A whole lot more power. And we have a lot of talent, which takes me back to why we're taking our talents to some place that after you give it, you fight for it.
All goes back.
And they turn around. I went to your school, and now you don't want to give me a job. I did everything.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I don't disagree. All
right, man. I really, really, really sure appreciate this. Now, I have to bring you back because we've talked about cultural stuff. We didn't get too much into the business aspect of it, which I really wanted to. So I hope that you'll come back again. I want people to make sure you can tell them your website and your social media so they can definitely find the book.
Sure.
So let them know where they can find your stuff.
So my website is TayoRockson.com. So TayoRockson.com. And if you search Tayo Rockson, that's all my social media handles. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Tayo Rockson. Podcast is called As Told by Nomads. I bring on people from different parts of the world to just share ideas. So everyone in different parts of the world, sometimes it's business, sometimes it's cultural. Mm-hmm. And my book is called Use Your Difference to Make a Difference. So, copy your copies.
I'm going to make sure that I definitely get a copy of that. And I'm going to keep these notes because when you come back again, I still got like a page of stuff, man. I got to get you for the next time. We've already covered your hot sauce habits and stuff. I see you have a Lakers jersey back there. So who's your?
It's a LeBron jersey. I'm a LeBron. I have a lot of LeBron. Look, on the other side is Cleveland, Miami.
I see you got a crown with the painting. Is that supposed to be LeBron?
No, so LeBron is king, but we're all kings and queens. I call my students and everyone in my life kings, queens, and royalties. So kings, queen, and royalty rather. And I want us we talk about redefining narrative.
Yeah,
this is where we come from. But yes, I have that's a crown from my culture, Yoruba culture. Okay. I'm from the Yoruba tribe, and it's beaded. It's a beaded crown. The birds is like a connection to spirituality, but I just like the older I get, the more intentional I am about sharing all these elements of who I am, and hopefully other people find themselves in the stories too.
What's with all the shoes in the background? It's like I see.
Yeah. Come on, yeah. You see, of course, it's LeBron. Yeah, you said you look like my mom right there. My mom was like, "Why are you like this guy?" Yeah, people have their own things. All right, I like art. I like basketball. I'm a huge LeBron fan.
Yeah.
You know, hot sauce.
You like hot sauce. Gummies, which
I collect this too.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you that I won't call out no names, but when people hear LeBron's, there's a few people in the studio that's not really.
Of course, yeah. There's Jordan fans. I know. Yeah. Jordan fans.
I really appreciate that. You know. I want you to. I'll call you offline to work with my kids. We gotta talk about the kids thing.
Okay.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I appreciate you, and I will get in contact with you.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for that.
I'm about to do it again. Yeah. Let's just start. Start the conversation. Start the project. And don't let not starting be the reason you didn't succeed. Enter a space where you can dream free and start or continue your journey. Located in a building and street full of history, I challenge you. I challenge you to start. You see the vibes. No worries. With our space and your imagination, the possibilities are endless. Having a comfortable space for your podcast, film, or any other production is the first step to you starting. And always remember to dream, create, and then do it all over again.